Hello and happy Friday. Happy Memorial Day to everybody out there. Thank you for signing on to the to our kickoff of the ALEC 250th celebration. I'm Lisa Nelson, the CEO of ALEC, and I'm joined by a number of our leaders, including our national chair for 2025, Senator Patricia Recker, and Assemblyman Robert Smullen from New York. Today, we are kicking off what ALEC is going to be working on in conjunction with the White House and the country to celebrate the 250th anniversary. And as we all know, it kind of works backwards to the big celebration of the 4th of July in 2026. So I'm going to share my screen with you and just run through a few very quick slides before we get into the substance of Senator Rucker and Assemblyman Robert Smullen's presentations. But Mark, if you could share the slides. The first is to basically welcome, I think that might be the last one, Mark. Welcome you all to 250th and share with you the timeline that we will have. ALEC is working with the White House, as I said, and with our state legislators in all the states, and go ahead and go to the next slide on the timeline. We will be launching this series, and for one Friday every month, we are going to have the 13 states talk about the founding, and we'll be treated to New York today. But that will happen on one Friday every month, and we'll try to rotate that around from the age calls, which is our Doge in the States calls. We will be working through our annual meeting this summer in Indianapolis and dedicate time on the schedule and on our plenaries to the 250th. And of course, Lee Schalk and Jonathan Williams will be putting together a special edition of our policy solutions, our essential policy solutions for the December meeting in time to have those available for legislators at the following for the following sessions in 2026. If you want to go to the next slide, I want to just showcase the 13 colonies and remind everybody that these webinars will feature legislators from each of them and showcase kind of what they contributed to the founding. What we're trying to do, if you think about our effort, it's to educate. And that portion of our program will be talking about the founding, talking about the original signers of the Declaration. The second phase is to engage, and the third phase is to celebrate. So if you think about what you're doing in your states, educate, engage, and celebrate. And I think that just helps simplify everything that we're trying to make happen and drive home. If you want to go ahead and go to the next slide, we have a social media campaign that features two very exciting things. One is on this day, where you will see, and if you're not subscribed to our ALEC hashtag States 250 social media campaign, please do so now. But on this day will be reminders of things that happened on that day. And then we'll also have a Founding Fathers series that we've already started. So that social media campaign has already been up and running. I think we kicked it off with the Lexington and Concord events earlier in the year, and we'll continue to kind of push that through. And then finally, if you want to go to the next slide, in addition to the social media campaign, we're going to be celebrating your activities, what you are doing in the states. And I think the next two slides just show some of our legislators, some of our ACE members, the activity that we're doing across the country and what you're doing across the country. And we're trying to kind of wrap a bow around those activities. On the next slide, you'll see Kevin Byrne, who is one of our chairmen and on the board of ACE, who had a lot of his constituents already in the, I don't know if you want to go to the next slide there, Mark. He kicked off the 250th celebration with a reading of Paul Revere's Ride back in April. So we're super excited about that. That's fun. I don't know where that one came from. And then on the next slide, I just wanted to share one that I'm particularly fond of. This is Ben Franklin, and it's a partnership with Prager University.
Good day, friend.
Start talking.
I am Benjamin Franklin, printer by trade, philosopher by inclination, and in the summer of 1776, simply known as a rebel. I'd captured lightning from the skies, the kite, and built a press that printed wisdom for the common man. But nothing compared to the moment when I signed my name to our Declaration of Independence, knowing full well it might be my death warrant. We must hang together, or we'll hang apart, I quipped. That day, we pledged our lives, fortunes, and sacred honor. Respect this founding, friend. It's your bedrock, forged in sacrifice, so guard it well. My work is done. The future is yours.
And I love that closing. So this is a partnership that the White House has made with Prager University. And for all 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence, we are bringing to life, and they are bringing to life all 56 of them. If you look on the right side of the screen and see the picture, the portrait of Ben Franklin, and then the QR code and the little historical write-up, we can send these pictures out to all the state capitals, and you can bring the Declaration of Independence to life and post these in your state capitals. We have some wonderful donors who have already contributed to helping us make this happen for you. So for legislators out in the country, and I know that some of our board members have already raised their hands and have decided to do this, we will activate this series for you. It's not that complicated. It's 56 portraits with the prints, and you can put them on easels in your capital. You can put them on one blank wall. You can set them up in different meeting rooms, and then the people would click on the QR code and bring those signers to life, and each one of them has a separate message. So it's just a couple of the things that ALEC is doing to really accentuate and educate and engage and celebrate. I know that Jonathan and Lee will talk a little bit more about our policy objectives throughout this process as well. But those are the things that ALEC will be kicking off, and I am thrilled to turn it over to our national chair for 2025, Senator Patricia Rucker, who has a few comments, and then we'll move on with the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And I'm just so excited to be part of this as a history teacher and someone who really loves our nation's history. This is going to be just a great opportunity for all of us across the 50 states to really go back to our roots, what made America great, why our founding was different and unique, and why we should celebrate it and fight to defend it. So I'm really looking forward to emphasizing this year with ALEC the importance of our history and to really help educate everyone about how special and important America is because of our founding. So this is going to be really a great thing to be part of, and couldn't happen at a better time this year that I'm national chair. I think next we're going to have Robert Smullins. Is that correct?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator. It's great to be on this webinar talking about my very favorite thing of all, history, and the history of these great United States. I'm from upstate New York, which is a place that's very rich in tradition, and specifically the history of the Revolutionary War. It was a place where the war was fought in across many different years, particularly in the first third of the Revolution, when many of the battles were actually fought in New York. It was a place of what was the frontier, but it was also the superhighway between Canada and New York City. And we were subject to the British invading, well, we actually invaded Canada first, but the British actually invading New York from a couple different ways. And I live in the Mohawk Valley, which is part of the east-west axis of those waterways that along the Mohawk River, where the Iroquois Confederacy was located. So for me, the 250th is a very real sort of thing in our history. And we're in the process of what we call the Mohawk Valley History Initiative, which is to link the revolution 250 years ago to actually to our people today, through all the historical societies, but particularly through the schools, where we're going to be sponsoring events that celebrate the signing of the Declaration of Independence. And that's why this ALEC initiative is absolutely perfect. The 250th is going to be a fantastic event for people to actually touch the history of our great nation. So just for those of you who don't know, and you probably don't, but the four signers of the Declaration of Independence from New York that we're going to highlight are William Floyd, Philip Livingston, Francis Lewis, and Lewis Morris. Not household names, but in New York terms, very important to our history as we are going into this 250th year. So I'm very enthusiastic about the program. I look forward to promoting it throughout not only my legislative work, but throughout all of the media efforts that we're doing. And in particularly with the commission that New York has set up for the 250th. So thanks to ALEC for doing this. And I look forward to being a active participant and hope you will too. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Assembly Smullen, and it's so great to have you on the ALEC Board of Directors and representing ALEC, waving the flag up in New York. We really appreciate everything you're doing, and great update on the history of New York and those signers. Just absolutely incredible. Senator Rucker, I know that she touched on the importance of civics education, and we just wanted to make sure, as Jonathan and I move into our portion of the program here, ALEC has a great model policy called the American Civics and History Act. And this was something that we finalized back in 2021 after that annual meeting. But as an educational organization for state legislators, we're just so thrilled to be kicking off this campaign and putting these model policies back at the forefront of our essential policy solutions. We've also got a couple of things in the works, and I wanted to throw it to Jonathan here. We'll just have a conversation here over the next couple of minutes, but throw it to Jonathan for to tell us a little bit about this model resolution. Maybe give us a preview of what we can expect coming out of the annual meeting in Indianapolis.
Well, thank you, Lee. And this is an incredibly exciting campaign at ALEC with the state's 250 here. This is an incredible opportunity for us to, in some cases, relearn the history that we were taught when we were in school, or maybe that we should have been taught when we were in school, right? And that the public education system has oftentimes failed so many of our children across the United States and not taught American history and not taught it properly and not taught civics education. And in a little while, I'd like maybe Senator Rucker to talk a little bit more about our civics education model, because I think she was a sponsor of that at ALEC, something that she has moved in West Virginia, but also so important to just highlight the accomplishments of Senator Rucker and all of our legislators around the country to bring education freedom to now 16 states after Texas just adopted that. I mean, that is federalism in action, and it's an incredible opportunity to have a diversity of options for parents to be able to have real history taught, but in the sense of public education, that our legislators control curriculum decisions across the country. It's an incredible opportunity to use this America 250th birthday coming up in just over a year to look at what is it that we potentially lacked, especially in recent decades. And so from an ALEC perspective, we're going to obviously continue to look at those model policies that we have on the books and how can we disseminate those and educate legislators and the public across America over the next year, a little bit more than a year to get to July of 2026. We also are soliciting ideas as we're coming up on our ALEC annual meeting in Indianapolis in July, as well as our States and Nations Policy Summit in Fort Worth, Texas in the first week of December, for you as legislators and our partners across the country to come with us with ideas with potentially other pieces of model policy that we can use to highlight this incredible moment of America at 250. And whether that's things like more civics education or something maybe as simple as a resolution, I know that we've heard from legislators that they'd like to have to celebrate America at 250 and highlight what is it, those things that make America unique in a resolution that can be easily introduced in state capitals all around the country in the 2026 legislative sessions, or even before in some cases. So we encourage you to be there at annual meeting, to be a part of that process, but come to us with your ideas, not just on the resolution, but other ways to create model policy that ALEC is known for, these trusted policy solutions, in order to use this moment in time and use America's 250th birthday to remember our history and to teach that to the next generation. Obviously, President Reagan's famous quote about "we are one generation away," right? If we do not continue to pass down our values and our principles and what it is that has always made America great and will continue to make America great, we are one generation away. It doesn't pass through our bloodlines, as Reagan always liked to say. And so it's an incredible opportunity for us to use this moment for good. And it's something that we're seeing happen already across the country. One thing that you'll hear from us a lot is our ALEC challenge to everyone to read the Declaration of Independence again. It had been a while since I had read it. I reread it recently. By the way, it's only a little over 1,300 words long. It's about the size of an op-ed for a paper that allows long op-eds. So we're not talking about spending hours reciting what the founders came up with. This is a remarkable document in the course of human history. And when you reread it, at least what struck me, Lee, and I'd love to open it up to get everyone else's opinion on this, but what struck me is, what is it that America is unique for, right? And what is it that is the DNA of that declaration? And obviously, when you get into kind of the heads of the founders, as you read their original wording there, they were obviously looking for religious freedom. They were looking to build a society based on the rule of law and property rights. But the other thing that is common in their complaints, right, about their grievances that they air in the Declaration, it is that a strong central government, in the case of one person, in the case of the King of England, that was in London, that was governing their affairs and not giving them autonomy to practice their religion as they saw fit, to conduct commerce, to have their own legislative assemblies in the colonies at that point. And what you'll see then, of course, in the Constitution is a strong emphasis on the idea of federalism. And that is something that is first and foremost among ALEC principles, I think, when you look at the 52-year history of ALEC. And so this is an incredible moment to remember that principle of federalism, but to also put federalism in action and honor those sacrifices that the founders, that Colonel Smolin was just talking about from New York, and the others risked their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor to sign that document, which in many cases, as we know, is their death warrant.
I love that, Jonathan. That's such an important challenge to everybody that's watching. And as you mentioned, federalism really can be found throughout the Declaration, but I think the other two core ALEC principles as well, both free markets and limited government. I mean, when you look at the list of grievances that the colonies had, that is very apparent that these principles were held very close to their hearts. So you mentioned one of the things that I think we should probably talk a little bit more about is the model policy. And so, Senator Rucker, with you as the original sponsor at ALEC of the American Civics and History Act, could you give us a little bit of insight to that and what you've actually been able to accomplish in the West Virginia Senate?
Well, thank you very much. I love talking about this. It was actually an idea that was born out of, you guys may remember those videos they did on the street where they're asking the average person on the street, hey, how many branches of government do we have? Who's your current president? Very basic questions. And you had Americans unable to answer what is basic civics questions. So what that model policy was basically codifying what we consider to be essential to a proper civics education. So it says in that model policy that the Declaration of Independence must be read by all students, the preamble to the Constitution, that students know and understand branches of government and checks and balances and those concepts that is just integral to what makes our nation great and how they came about and why it's important. I think we included in there the Electoral College we found a few years ago, there's a lot of Americans who do not understand the Electoral College and how, a president is essentially elected. That model policy also includes transparency for the parents. So it says that all that is used for civics and US history must be made available to the parents for them to be able to peruse and see so that they also know what their students are learning, hopefully learning it themselves with them. It requires that the students, public students, high school students, all must pass the civics test that all citizens need to pass. I took that myself as a first-generation immigrant, and I could tell you it is very basic. It's not difficult. And if you would expect that anyone who has had a good history education would be able to pass it. It's amazing that not everyone does. So we require that in the state of West Virginia. You must pass that test before you can graduate from high school. So this model policy is essentially what I call just common sense, most basic civics education, and really helps with transparency, helping the parents be involved, making certain that we do a better job in knowing and understanding what our rights are as Americans.
Very well said. And I wanted to make sure that everyone watching knows where to find the latest updates and what ALEC is doing on this campaign. We're going to be building this page out, but if you go to alec.org/states250, you will find all of the updates about this campaign. Or if you just go to our homepage, alec.org, you'll find a button right at the top. We cover a lot of things here to include the social media campaign that Lisa spoke about at the top of this call. This is updated as we post throughout the week with those Founding Friday posts and those other special edition posts. We also have a section to let you know when our next webinar is taking place, or our upcoming video podcast episodes that are being released. And of course, a section on the events that are taking place across the country. This is one of my favorite elements of this campaign because we have so many great members of ALEC and our American City County Exchange who are really making sure that their communities and the next generation are remembering and understanding how special the founding of this country was. And so this is a part of that page where we're going to be featuring photos and recaps of these events. And of course, all of this will culminate at the 2026 ALEC annual meeting next year. And so I think right now I would turn it back over to Jonathan or Lisa for any additional comments about the campaign.
Well, just one other thing I'll mention, and you hit on part of this, Lee, is, as we're in at least, 40 states, generally 50 states a year for various ALEC policy events and membership events, and just being out with you, our members. We're looking to weave this in this narrative and these educational campaign ideas into our visits to your state. As Lisa mentioned, we have the amazing portraits there. We'd love to have in every state capital and work with you to place those, but to bring the programming around this too, and civics education discussion around federalism, not just the esoteric idea of federalism, but federalism in action, which you'll see, federalism is alive and well at ALEC, and it always has been and it always will be, because it's woven within our DNA. And with everything that we do, our comparative analysis reports, whether it's our education freedom report or rich states, poor states, or our energy affordability index, or our new report that's coming out on worker freedom, that is, in essence, federalism in action, because it's this inherent competition between states. That's going to be programming you see, but also be on the lookout for our 250 campaign as we're in your state. And then I'll just end with the fact that when it comes to federalism, and I won't name any names, but you talk to marketing and pollster types, and they'll tell you, and they've told us this, they've told other groups this, that you shouldn't even use the word federalism because no one understands it. That needs to end. And this is an incredible opportunity for us to be that educational voice, and all of you with your constituents across the country, educate Americans on what is the idea of federalism that our founders came, and what is it that makes America unique. It's an incredible check and balance on the overarching power of big government, and it's a protector of individual liberty, and it's something that we will continue to fight for day in and day out at ALEC. So we're very excited about this opportunity. The next 13 months here, we're going to have an incredible series of presenters, and we look forward to working with all of you.
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. That was really good. You know, I've just been struck in the last couple of days about the opportunity for that federalism that Jonathan's talking about, and to educate people around what that means. And you know, for the first time in a long time, we have an administration that actually understands it and is spending time pushing power back to the states. And I know we wanted to keep this to just 30 minutes, and we promised to do that. But as we spent time at the White House with our state chairs in this last week, every single person that we met with talked about how they have learned not only and get their energy from what you are doing in the states, but also how they are continuing to try to push the power back. And we saw this mission creep for the last, 50 years of the DC getting bigger and bigger and more, kind of in people's lives. And that federalism component that Jonathan's talking about, it is time for that to end, that people don't understand it. We need to re-educate the American people about how great that Declaration is, how great the Constitution is, and how important these laboratories of democracy are at the state level, closest to the people. So we pledge to do that once a month here on our ALEC 250 campaign. We want to bring it to the states. We want to find ways. We don't have all the answers. We want to find ways to help you educate, engage, and celebrate this kind of monumental thing. We're starting to hear about this June 14th parade here in Washington that's going to kick off even more of a celebration. But I do want to commend Assemblyman Smullen on the 4 signers from New York. It's great to hear the history there. And we will hear from the other 12 states and the background behind them. I think you've given us a good way to kind of proceed on what we're going to ask each speaker to talk about. What was on their minds. When you listen to Ben Franklin, I get totally choked up at the fact that he thought he might die and lose his life because he was fighting for for that freedom. So it's Memorial Day, and what a great, appropriate kickoff to go out and celebrate the rest of the weekend. I guess it's not a celebration, but to honor our fallen heroes and the people who have given the ultimate sacrifice for this country. So thank you very much for joining ALEC and being a part of our great family, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you.